Welcome to State of the Offense, fantasy football news for your favorite team, the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to State of the Offense, where we try to provide unbiased coverage of your team from a fantasy football perspective. Last year, the Bills finished 4th in total offense, 8th in passing, 9th in rushing, and 4th in scoring, which earned them a 13-3 record, the AFC East title, and they advanced to the second round of the playoffs. In the skill positions, the Bills bring back all of their starters from last season except Devin Singletary. In free agency, the Bills added Damian Harris and Latavius Murray at running back. In the draft, the Bills added Dalton Kincaid in the first round. Most fantasy football shows will only mention skill players, but at State of the Offense, we look at the entire offense. We start in the trenches by analyzing condition of the offensive line. On the offensive line, the Bills will bring back 4 of their starters from last year. In the second round of the draft, the Bills selected O'Cyrus Torrence from Florida. Dion Dawkins returns for his 7th season in Buffalo at left tackle. Dawkins played 16 games with an 88.2% snap share. He graded at an 83, which was the Bills' best offensive lineman rating, and good for the number 12 left tackle in the game. Dawkins is under contract through 2024. Free agent signee Connor McGovern is currently listed at the top of the ESPN depth chart for left guard. McGovern spent 4 seasons in Dallas. With Dallas, he played 15 games, had a 76.9% snap share, and he graded at a 71. His 71 grade places him in the 19 to 20 range of projected starting left guards in the league. He signed a 3-year deal this past offseason. Mitch Morse returns for his 5th season with the Bills at center. Morse graded at a 77, which was the Bills' second best mark. He rates as the number 13 center in the NFL. Morse played in 13 games and had a 70.7% snap share. Morse is signed through 2024. Ryan Bates returns for his 5th season. He graded at a 73 with an 87.3% snap share in 15 games. He is currently listed as the starting right guard on the depth chart. His 73 rating places him in the 23 to 24 range of projected starting right guards. Bates is under contract through 2025. The Bills used the 59th pick in the draft on former Florida guard O'Cyrus Torrence. Torrence played right guard in college. If Torrence is ready to start from day one, I could see the starting left guard either being Bates or McGovern. Spencer Brown is entering his 3rd season as a Bill at right tackle. Brown graded at a 71 in 14 games. Brown had a 76.9% snap share. His 71 rating places him in a group of right tackles in the 20 to 23 range. The Bills have everyone in their top 6 offensive linemen signed through at least 2024. The Bills made guard a priority to replace Roger Saffold. They used the second round pick and signed an unrestricted free agent at the guard position. The Bills' offensive line had some injury issues last year with 4 starters missing at least 1 game. Better health and some new blood may make the Bills' offense even better than before. Quarterback Josh Allen means as much to the Buffalo Bills franchise as any player can in the game. Allen is a perennial contender for the league MVP award. In fantasy football, he is an elite quarterback because of his rushing ability. He was the quarterback 2 last season, and he is currently the second quarterback drafted in fantasy leagues. His overall draft spot is 22, which puts him late in the second round. I actually believe that 22 may be too low for Allen. If you take him earlier in the second round, the pick should pay off for your team during the season. Stephon Diggs has been an elite wide receiver since his arrival in Buffalo in 2020. He has targeted nearly 10 passes every game, and he should not have anyone taking targets away from him this season either. Diggs was the wide receiver 4 in total points and wide receiver 5 in points per game. He is currently the wide receiver 6 in draft position behind Davante Adams and ahead of CeeDee Lamb. His overall draft position is player 13, which puts him at the top of round 2. If you feel more comfortable with Diggs than some of the other elite wide receivers, I agree with you. Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver 3, and both he and Matthew Stafford missed significant time last year. Tyreek Hill is the wide receiver 4, but he is tied to Tua Tagovailoa staying healthy. Davante Adams got a quarterback downgrade, quarterback who is currently injured and has a long injury history with Jimmy Garoppolo. If you think that the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs quarterback wide receiver situation is better than other top wide receivers, you probably can justify Diggs as high as the wide receiver 3. Gabe Davis is back across from Diggs as a very reliable deep threat. Davis averaged 17.4 yards per catch. Gabe Davis was the wide receiver 34 in total points and wide receiver 36 in points per game, but Davis is wildly inconsistent. The Pittsburgh and Minnesota games accounted for 37.5% of his fantasy points last year. Davis is currently the wide receiver 47 in drafts, player 120, which puts him at the end of the 10th round. Some of the players getting drafted ahead of Davis are Kadarius Toney, DJ Chark, Michael Thomas, and Odell Beckham. If you play in a best ball format where you don't have to set a lineup and your highest scorers give you the points, Davis is a perfect late round pick. I believe that Davis is undervalued and should go ahead of most of the players that are getting drafted right in front of him. Khalil Shakir moves up the depth chart to wide receiver 3 on the Bills roster. He may be able to emerge if Josh Allen has some big early games. The biggest obstacle to Shakir for targets, though, may come from the tight ends. Dawson Knox is a solid, reliable tight end for the Bills and in fantasy. He was the tight end 14 in total points and the tight end 15 in points per game. He is normally a great bye week filler for your number 1 tight end. From this point forward, I believe that Knox's consistent production may be in severe jeopardy, with the Bills using the 24th pick in the draft on Utah's Dalton Kincaid. This was a strong tight end class, and Kincaid ended up being the highest drafted prospect from this group. Rookie tight ends usually don't produce much. There's been a lot of talk about the Bills putting Kincaid in the slot, which may end up taking Isaiah McKenzie's production from last year. In fantasy, Kincaid is getting rookie hype to boost his draft stock. Kincaid is the tight end 16 and Knox is the tight end 20. The Bills may run a lot of 2 tight end sets now, but I don't believe that the Bills will support 2 tight ends in fantasy football. I would stay away during the draft and probably wait until week 1 waiver claims before I would go after either player. James Cook is the current running back 1 on the Buffalo depth chart, with Devin Singletary going to Houston. The Bills did sign Damian Harris in free agency. Harris peaked in his 3rd season with 929 yards and 15 touchdowns. He was surpassed by Ramondre Stevenson in 2022, and he only played in 11 games. He can replace Singletary's production. Singletary out-carried James Cook 177-89 and out-targeted him 52-32. How much does James Cook's role increase in year 2? He is a smaller back, so he may not get Singletary's usage. I also believe that Harris will get more carries in 2023 than Cook had in 2022. There is a strong possibility that the Bills use a different back in their game plans in different ways from week to week. This makes me nervous as a fantasy player. You also have to take into account that Josh Allen is good for about 8 rushing touchdowns a year. Cook is currently the running back 30 at pick 93, which makes him an 8th rounder. Damian Harris is running back 47, pick 160, which makes him a 14th rounder. I don't think that Cook will necessarily produce to this level in 2023. I do believe that Harris will surpass his draft value, though. You can probably avoid the Buffalo running back situation in your drafts. One of them may be a decent waiver ad at some point of the year. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are obvious fantasy football stars. They will both probably be drafted in the 2nd round. Quarterbacks are often undervalued in fantasy football, but you usually need a top 6 quarterback to win your league. Drafting Josh Allen gives you an extremely high chance of being in the top 6 in quarterback points. Diggs has one of the best wide receiver situations in the NFL, and he is a very safe pick. Gabe Davis is explosive but inconsistent. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid may cancel each other out for tight end production. Damian Harris is probably the best bargain of Bills players. James Cook is probably getting drafted too high. The Bills were many people's Super Bowl favorites last year. There is no reason to think that a year later that they can't make it this year. If the Bills improve in a few areas like running back and the receiving group, they can exceed their recent season's results. If you like today's coverage of the Buffalo Bills offense, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.